People who had abstinence-only sex education. What was the most outrageous or untrue thing you were told? Story 1. Comparisons of girls who have sex to objects. Chewed gum. You don't want to share someone's chewed gum, do you? A licked cupcake. This cupcake looks yummy, right? Licks frosting. How about now? Unwrapped. Dirty gift with ripped up wrapping paper. A piece of tape that gets stuck to, and then pulled off of a few people until it gets all fuzzy, and can't stick to someone else. When you have sex with someone, you lose a bit of your stickiness each time, and eventually you'll stop being able to stick to anyone, meaning you can't fall in love with anyone after you sleep with a few people. Stretched out elastic band that eventually breaks. As far as I remember, these analogies were only used for girls. The boys were immune to the problems surrounding sex. Story 2. If a man ejaculates on or near your body, the sperm will swim around and find your vagina, and you will get pregnant. Story 3. If you have premarital sex, no one will ever want you. Story 4. Hugging a boy will get you pregnant. Story 5. My dad pointed to a teenage couple hugging when I was a kid and told me that's how you get pregnant. Months later at the fair, my aunt put my 5-year-old cousin on the back of my horse and told him to wrap his arms around my waist to hold on. My heart sank. Later that day, I shamefully told my dad that my 5-year-old cousin got me pregnant. Story 6. So I'm Irish and Catholic. Growing up in Dublin, we had church-sanctioned sex education. Some of the highlights. All penises are the same size when erect. We were 14, and this was hilarious to us. Being gay is just a phase. No method of birth control is reliable, including oral sex and body rubbing. Story 7. Opposite story. I went to a Catholic high school. My health teacher was a progressive. So she closed the door and said, "Listen, okay, sure, masturbation is a sin or whatever, but it's actually fine. You gotta, clean out the pipes once in a while. Now, if your friends ask you to go to the movies and your answer is sorry, gotta stay home and jerk off, probably step it back a bit." Story 8. If you are willing to make out with someone, you'll end up having sex with them because you passed the point of no return on the mountain climb to sex. Story 9. I was given a diagram of the female anatomy in which the clitoris had been erased, as in someone went into MS Paint and whitened it out on a line drawing of the exterior of the vulva. The urethra, vagina, labia, anus were labeled, and then at the top of the labia, it was whited out. Story 10. We had a woman come in to teach us abstinence for a whole week, and she was one of these types. She went on and on about how waiting to have her first kiss until marriage was the best thing that ever happened to her, and that anything more than holding hands before marriage was a slippery slope to sex. We had to listen to her tell us this over and over for a whole week. Story 11. I literally didn't enjoy making out until very recently because I was always scared that I was going to cause the guy to pass the point of no return. I basically spent my entire adolescence terrified that I was going to be raped if I kissed someone. Story 12. This is some fucked up rapey bullshit that makes it the girl's fault if she doesn't want to have sex. Boys can't control themselves. Blue balls and all that.
Good luck.
I once had a guy guilt me into sex by saying, "You're an adult now. Adults don't just make out like teenagers do." Yes, this is literally grooming. Once you kissed a boy, you must have sex with him. Even if something feels off, even if you barely know him and have had a little too much to drink, even if his friends are recording it with their phones, you've passed the point of no return and now you owe it to him. No wonder priests and pastors find such easy marks for abuse in their flocks.
Pleasure to see
I mean, in fairness, I've had a girl tell me the same before. And actually, when she told me that, I was honesty just like, I never really thought about that, but you're probably right.
You know how it is.
So I understand the temptation to label it rapey, but that could also be a bit extreme. We also tend to just make comments based on personal experience rather than absolute facts. So one person could easily come to the conclusion that making out always leads to sex in adulthood because they're on a 100% streak themselves. So it just seems logical, when maybe that's not the case for most people. That being said, upon reflection, I do think just making out as an adult is a bit strange. But maybe that's because to me, making out is actually more intimate than just having sex. I could have sex with a stripper, but that doesn't mean I'm going to kiss her. But if I like you enough to kiss you for a lengthy period of time, then I definitely like you enough to go all the way. Maybe that's just me? Story 13. I was told this all the time, that it's a slippery slope. One thing leads to another. And before you know it, you'll be having sex. We were also told that boys can't control themselves, and that they see girls who dress immodestly as objects. Story 14. They told us we shouldn't even hold hands for this same reason. And rather than being on a mountain, we were all frogs sitting in a pot of slowly heating water that would boil us alive if we weren't careful. Story 15.
Food down here.
My mother was raised Catholic, and she was told that after a certain number of seconds went by, a kiss turned into a sin. So as a young woman, she said that she would count the seconds kissing. I don't recall the exact threshold for when a kiss became a sin, but it was under 10 seconds. I am not sure if she went back in for another kiss and kissed in, say, 5-second intervals, but sheesh. Talk about not being able to enjoy the moment. Story 16. Oh yes, I vividly remember my teachers telling us not to forget to confess all of our passionate kisses and hugs that lasted just a few seconds too long when we went into reconciliation. You know, my priest did not need to know that I had passionately kissed my middle school boyfriend. Story 17. Oh boy, the slippery slope theory. If you date, you'll hold hands. If you hold hands, you'll eventually hug. If you hug, you'll eventually kiss. If you kiss, you'll eventually start caressing each other. And if you start caressing, you'll take off your clothes. And if you take off your clothes, you'll have sex. Man, whoever did that premarital sex talk in my primary school had problems. Story 18. I remember an analogy of playing fetch with your dog near a cliff. You wouldn't throw the ball nearer and nearer edge for fear of your dog falling off. So don't kiss, then make out. Then go under the clothes, and get closer and closer to sex because it might lead to sex. Story 19. So this is the schooling that made those carbon copy rapists talking about. I can't stop. Bro, stop lying. I can stop anytime fiancé even makes an ouch noise. More seriously, why would adults teach minors that? That's the exact opposite of what you should be teaching. If you want people not to fuck, tell them they can say no whenever. You're uncomfortable? Scared? Not ready yet? Say no. Your partner says he has blue balls, and it's your fault. Or if you loved her, you'd have sex? Still okay to say no. Also, that person is a lying liar who lies. Much harder to have sex if you won't have sex with disrespectful yahoos. Let me tell you. Story 20. We had a video series all about sexual desires, but from a religious standpoint. I remember there was a part about necking, and all I could think of was giraffes. I was in junior high, but seriously, who says necking? Story 21. I wasn't in abstinence-only sex ed, but had a friend who was. I was in like grade 9 to 10, and made out with someone, and she lectured me about how I was on the path to full-blown fucking people. She compared it to getting a new or a used car and test driving and such. I was like, girl, I made out with a boy and told him to take me home, chill. Story 22. We were told that making out was sinful because having someone's tongue in your mouth was simulating sexual intercourse. Tongue in mouth equals penis in vagina in your mind. So sin even without the sex part. Story 23. One of my friends in high school had a strong religious upbringing. He would always say, I can't have premarital sex because that leads to dancing, which is a sin. Story 24. When I was in 8th grade, we had a pretty honest sex education class. They even talked about the clit and what to do with it a little 1980. Today, people's heads would explode. But regarding this comment, and one of the things I sorta agree with, I remember our teacher saying, and yes, I know this is sexist, etc. Just a hug can get Johnny's heart racing and lead to other conduct. So you girls should be aware of that. As a red-blooded boy, that's kind of true. I think it's wonderful, that feeling, but there's a scintilla of truth in it. When I got a hug in junior high or slow danced, my mind would be reeling and my pants too tight. Making out would turn me into a leg-humping animal. So I understand this one.